Jeff Bezos, the founder and CEO of Amazon, says, "Branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room." Our next session aligns beautifully with this thought and is with Ambi Parameswaran, author and brand strategist. During his 35-plus year of marketing and advertising career, he has headed FCB Ulka Advertising as CEO and developed brands such as Tata, LIC, Wipro, ZTV, Abbott, among others. He will be speaking about building a personal brand. Joining him after his keynote will be Minas de Rosario, co-founder and director of Ideosphere. Over to you, Ambi.
Thank you. Okay, is everyone awake? Yeah? Huh? Want to listen to some Gyan? Sorry, no Gyan. Absolutely no Gyan. Thank you, Amit, for inviting me here and giving my book to those lucky people, I think, who came first 50 or something. I tried picking up my own book and I was told it's gone. So I said that's a good sign. So those of you who didn't get the book is available in bookshops, it's available in Amazon, available everywhere. Right? Go ahead and buy the book and read it and apply it. Okay, so good afternoon. I have a short presentation. I'll go through it as quickly as I can, and then we'll get into a chat with Minal, and then we'll throw open for questions from all of you. So the talk I'm going to give is from my book, All the World's a Stage, Personal Branding Story. This is incidentally my 11th book. Don't ask me how I have written 11. If you start, early, you can write a lot of books. So this is about, my first book came out in the year 2000, so 11 books in 22 years is not too bad, right? So not too bad. Okay. So Shakespeare said that all the world's a stage and all the men and women are mere players, right? And I've tried to link that to the topic of personal branding. And when you say personal branding, a lot of people get upset. It's all nonsense, it's all bullshit, and it's just bragging and stuff like that. So I presented this book, in fact, as almost like an adda conversation among 5 friends who meet for their silver reunion in IIM Kolkata, right? My old campus. Right? And one of the character happens to be me, but it's not me. He's only called Ambi, but he's much younger than me. Obviously, I'm vicariously living a younger life. So this guy is a much younger me, and the other 5 characters are all fictional. So some friends of mine have tried to guess, is this so-and-so, is that so-and-so? No, all of them are fictional. Right? So what I'm going to tell you over the next 15 minutes is really 7 myths about personal branding. Right? And all of you are in the communication business. You keep hearing this. You're probably helping your clients build their personal brand. Each of you here is a personal brand, whether you like it or not. So let's start with the first myth. First myth is that personal branding is something new, which Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn has created. It's all newly created stuff which has come up after the social media became big. That's not true. Because the first article on personal branding was written by a person called Tom Peters, who wrote this cover story in a magazine called Fast Company. And the cover story was called The Brand You. Right? When did this article appear? Any guess? 5 years ago? 10 years ago? 25 years ago. Okay, it was 25 years ago this article appeared, and after that many articles have appeared on the topic of personal branding. So personal branding is not something which is just come up because all of us are posting stuff on LinkedIn and Twitter. No, personal branding is much older and written by someone like Tom Peters, who wrote a book called In Search of Excellence with Robert Waterman. He was a partner in McKinsey, blah, blah, blah. So written by someone senior, not by some young kid who's posting YouTube videos every 3rd day, right? Someone senior, someone been there, done that. So that's the first myth. So personal branding is not something new. It has been there, we've been talking about it for 25 years. Let's go to the next one. Personal branding is personal branding is just for CEOs. Why should I even bother about personal branding? It's meant for, Sachin Tendulkar and CEOs of companies. But the truth is, everyone today is a personal brand, whether you like it or not. So the earlier you realize it, the better it is. So if you're dealing with companies, all the senior managers are personal brands and people below them are personal brands. So personal branding is for everyone. Third, personal branding happens on its own. This is a discussion I've had with my friends, and in fact, in the book, there is this discussion among the friends who meet there saying, look, if you do a good job, you work hard, personal brand to ban jata hai, personal branding kyun karna hai? But the truth is, experts tell you that it is better to craft your personal brand the way you want it than allow it to happen on its own. So personal branding is something you should worry about in crafting rather than letting it become a happenstance. So that's a major warning to everyone, right? See, why should I even bother about building my personal brand? The next myth is personal branding is just bragging. I went there, I met so and so, I won this award, and as we speak, many awards are being given out in another hotel in this city. And my friend Lloyd Matthias says that award ranks there. And then he told me that another award ranks here, another award ranks here. So, a lot of awards are being given out, everyone poses with those awards, and we also say congrats, knowing fully well that, isko pata nahi kitna chuna lagaya, kisi ne lagaya. Theek. So, it is not that. Personal branding is not just bragging. Personal branding is about telling what you stand for in your own polite terms, right? Without openly saying, I launched this brand or I built this big success. No, you can say that, but in a way that it doesn't sound like bragging. Okay, that's the next point. The next one is personal branding and networking is for losers. When I say networking, a lot of people, and in the book also this guy fights with me, saying networking is what going to a party like, getting an event and giving your visiting card to everyone and say, hey, can I have your visiting card? That is not networking, right? I mean, that can get you some visiting cards, but as a fact is, in any of these events I go to, a lot of people take my visiting card. Very rarely do I get someone writing to me, right? Of course, sometimes you give a visiting card, someone writes you, you thank them, but generally this is the lowest form of networking. So I came across a very interesting article in the Harvard Business Review about what they call a different type of networking. All of you know Bill Gates, Big Bang, Microsoft, right? Where did Microsoft get its first break? Where did they provide their software to? Which company did they sell to? IBM, right? IBM PC. The original IBM PC was powered by what is called MS-DOS, disk operating system. It's a round black thing which all of us used to use. Many of you would have never seen it. It used to come in, don't start thinking wildly, 5 inches, 3 inches and all that, right? Now, how did Bill Gates get to sell this thing to Microsoft? Now, the article tells an interesting story. Bill Gates' mother, Mary Gates, was on the governing council of a charitable organization called United Way. In that committees, she had a number of people who used to be a member of that managing committee or advisory board or whatever you call it. And she used to be involved in it. She used to attend regular meetings, and she made a bunch of friends in that setting. So one of them was a gentleman called John Eckers from IBM. He was a VP at IBM. So he once asked Mary Gates, Mary, what's your son doing? So she said, well, John, I think he's dropped out of Harvard and he's sitting in the garage and he's saying he's creating some software. he's creating something which he calls software. Those days we didn't even know what it was, right? So John Ackers tells Mary, look, we'd be interested in meeting him. Why do you tell him to come by and see me in my office? So Bill Gates goes, meets IBM. John Ackers says, we got this team working on a PC machine. Can you go meet them? Can you help them do something? And then the rest is history, right? And he creates the disk operating system. IBM PC gets launched and Microsoft is on its way. John Ackers then goes on to become the CEO of IBM some years later, right? So point is, if you want to build a network, try and make your network as diverse as possible. Meeting the same set of people all the time is good, but what about joining an NGO? What about going and teaching in a business school? What about, getting into a music circle? What about getting into a trekking group? What about getting into a biking gang, right? Get into a different group and build strong network. That's what, I learned from this lesson, that networking, coming and giving visiting card is one thing. It's a lower form networking. The more interesting form is to build networks outside your comfort zone. Okay, that's myth number 5. So let's got 2 more to go. Myth number 6. Personal branding is very complex. How do you do it? It's so difficult, so complex, The fact is, there's simple 5 steps, right? First is know who you are. Can you define yourself as in 3 or 4 words? Articulate, competent, analytical, creative, innovative, blah, 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 whatever it is. 3, 4, 5 words. And then confirm it, that people think this way about you, right? It's okay for me to think that I'm wonderfully humorous, but I may be actually boring and putting half of you to sleep, right? So I need to confirm that am I, keeping you awake, right? So what are you? Second, how do you express, what is your executive presence? How do you present yourself? Again, check with people, right? How do you present yourself? That's called executive presence. The third is executive voice. What is your voice? I'm not saying in terms of audio quality, but how do you come across in your oral communication, your written communication? What is your voice? And then how do you amplify your voice? A lot of time we jump and start, doing the amplification. Amplification could be through writing articles, doing blog posts, posting it on LinkedIn, but that comes as step 4, not step 1. And the final, 5th step is, how do you monitor this and course correct? And in the book I've written a funny little incident. I started my career in advertising in 1979, before most of you were born. And in advertising, I used to look like a bacha. I was about 24, 23, 24. And so to look mature, old, and my boss had a beard, so I also grew a beard. So I had a scruffy beard, and 3 years later I got interviewed to join a British multinational, Boots, which was in pharmaceuticals. So I got interviewed, I got the job, I went and joined them as brand manager. And I think 4 days after I joined the company, I met the proper British MD. I mean, he was Indian, but he was more British than British. So in the loo, he met me and he said, Mr. Parameswaran, beard is okay for advertising, but we are a British multinational. Next day, the beard went off. Right? So course correct. You may have to course correct a few things, so do that. Right? So define who you are, develop a presence, develop a voice, amplify, and course correct when necessary. And the last point, 7, is the myth that personal branding is only for marketing people. No, it's not. It is for your doctor. It is for a lawyer. It is for a investment banker. It is for a investment advisor. And why did I get to write a book on personal branding? Because when the lockdown happened in 2020, March, in April, IIT Madras called me and said, look, we are all locked down, so can you do an online thing on branding? So I said, it's a good idea. Why don't you do more of them? Why only one? Why don't you get someone else to do 2, 3, like that? every week you do it. So they said, no, why don't you do 3? So I did 3 sessions, one on branding 101, second one on living the brand, and third one on personal branding. As it happened, after that, I got invited by a company to come and talk on personal branding to their investment advisors, and then someone else called and I said, look, looks interesting, right? I mean, there seems to be some market for this personal branding, and that's how the book was born, right? So, personal branding is for everyone. It is for you, me, it is for our doctor, it is for our lawyer, it is for our chartered accountant, it's for our architect, it's for your client, it's for your boss client, it's for your junior client, for everyone. Personal branding is for everyone, and I've written this book like a walk around the, that is the IIM Calcutta Joka campus. The book is written like a walk around the campus. So it's a fun read. You can read it on a 1-hour flight. And remember, personal branding, I'm trying to demystify it. And hopefully in the next, we have time, right? We have another 30 minutes, and we'll try and do our Q&A and demystify it further. And maybe we'll have some questions for the audience. So thank you very much. And once again, Amit, thank you for inviting me here. Thank you.
I would, being a communicator, would say that I think I took away something from it. So it was glad that I read it, and I was completely intrigued by Shankar because I am that person. So I'm glad to have, understood him and his worries.
Okay, Shankar is one of the characters in the book. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's the guy who's a disbeliever. Very successful chap who questions everything that I say. Right, so.
Yes, I am that person. So I would say that taking an insight from what Shankar said, okay, right, you mentioned that brand, the way you defined it, is that brand is a story, okay, and everyone has a story at this point in time. How does a leader or a person, I may not even get into titles, but actually kind of make a unique story? How does that happen? Because it's not a very simple exercise. I went through your steps. It was not very simple for me either. So what do you feel is the simple way of finding your own unique story?
Okay, so this concept of a brand as a story is interesting because I came across this in a book called Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, who was a copywriter in an agency called Lord and Thomas, which later became FCB. And he has written that brand is a name that tells a story. That's what it is. You can write all those complicated definition of a brand, but finally a brand is a name that tells a story. Similarly, every one of us is a brand, and we will be telling a story, whether we like it or not. And our story is what people talk about us when we are not in the room, right? So one has to find out that, and if you find that out, then you can either build on it, or if you think it's not making sense, you need to correct it. Correct it might mean, for example, like my shaving off my beard, or someone changing the way they dress, someone changing the way they talk. For example, there was we had a film manager in our agency, and we had a branch manager in Chennai, and every month there was a fight between the two. Nasty emails, really nasty emails. So finally I said, Anu, what's going wrong, yeah? No, Minita said this, Minita said. I said, okay, hold it. I'm going to call Minita. Tomorrow she's going to come to Bombay. I want two of you to sit and talk. When they met each other, they suddenly changed. They said, oh, I didn't know. But they were literally shout. How you shout on email? How do you shout on email? Put all caps, right? Put all caps. I don't think this is what my client wanted. I don't think you understand. All caps. I said, what's wrong with you guys? Because both of you are nice people. What happens to you when you sit on your laptop and start typing stuff? So you have to understand. And the best thing is that you need to have someone who can tell you, right? Tell you that, look, what you're doing is nonsense. This is wrong. You should not be doing this. And you should give the freedom to that person to tell you. A lot of times, at least senior leaders surround themselves with this whole bunch of yes men who keep saying rah 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 to everything they say, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah.
So you, just to kind of elaborate, in terms of the unique sense of, building your own story, you would advise or recommend that I think at times it's better to take it from others or kind of understand what they perceive about you. Would that be a right statement to make?
Yeah, I think somewhere each of us, and I think it's an interesting exercise for you to do, is to write down how would you describe yourself in 4 or 5 words. Okay? And then get that verified by someone. Saying, is this what I am? And if that is what you are, then you like it, fine. If you want to make change, make a change. And then build on that. So that is your story.
No, that's amazing because there are a lot of clients when we meet, the area where they actually find it difficult is to do that exercise and be able to take an open feedback that's where you're good at or, not good at. So it's a very interesting exercise to actually
yeah, you should ask
your,
if your client trusts you and you trust your client, tell your clients to do this.
Yeah.
You have to build your personal brand, which means what do you stand for? What is your authenticity? We talked about purpose, right? What is your authenticity? What do you stand for? And then you can build a story. Backstory can be built, right? You can build a backstory to the brand, but what do you want to stand for? Right? Look at, I've talked about in the book, Harsh Goenka. On Twitter, he's such a, such a humorous, things he tweets, right? I don't know where he gets it from. So does Lloyd here. I was asking him, how do you get this? He said, I'm not working full time, so I do a lot of that. But, I wish I'm also not working full time, but I'm not able to pick up stuff like what he picks up and tweets, right? So, yeah, so you're advising your clients. It's important for you to advise them that they are a brand, whether they like it or not. In the book, this whole thing is, in the book, there is a very successful entrepreneur who has built his own business, done an IPO, but is not very sure what is a brand and whether he needs a brand, whether he's a personal brand. The fact is, he's a brand, his company is a brand, and if he understands that, he'll be even more successful. Right? So that's the moral of the story. Yeah.
No, and I think that kind of leans into a very interesting question I would ask, and while I'm quoting another book, but it's a wonderful quote, and I recently read this book by Pip Williams, and it said, words define us, they explain us, and on occasion they serve to control or isolate us. Why am I actually asking this why I'm quoting this is that how do you set a personality or your mannerisms, in today's world, especially because everyone has a unique story to tell, especially when most of your persona is built by someone younger than you. Like today, at this point in time, I am actually writing or ghostwriting for CEOs and leaders who are much ahead in their experience. So how does one do that? How can we articulate for leaders who are much ahead of our time as well as much experienced? But it's an important need.
It's a tough one. So I suppose you need to understand where they're coming from, right? So therefore, if they can share stuff they have written or even speeches they have given, right? Study the speeches they have given, and then you can get a flavor of how their mind works, and then you have to write it in the way they are thinking, right? You cannot write it in your way. You need to, it's a problem. You're writing, let's say, shadow pieces for 4 different clients.
Yeah.
One client is a particular type, another client is, 60 plus, a third client is 35-year-old. You can't write the same stuff for all 3 people.
Correct.
So you need to therefore say, look, for this 60-year-old guy, I'll write like this. For this 35-year-old, lady, I'm going to write like this. So you have to understand what kind of a brand persona they are, and then try and reflect that in the writing you do for them. Otherwise, it'll all look like one kitch-pitch. Yeah. And to be fair, I think you should get the client to read it once carefully. right? Instead of just leaving it to हाँ भेज दो, no, नहीं भेजूँगा, read it, right? Make them read it. That's the only way you can develop a voice. So after reading it, the client may say, no, I never say something like this. Okay, then correct. Right? So then they bring in their own stuff, and you can change it. So I think it's a mutual, give and take. But clients have to have some skin in the game. That they have to play a role in the way their brand is being crafted. So that's my kind of vague answer to your tough question.
Cool. No, I think I understand where you're coming from, but you know what? Articulation is such a complex, area, because we very proudly go to our customers and say, we articulate brands better. Now, saying that is one thing and doing that is one thing. So in order to kind of make that business impact, it is important from your point of view to understand that where do we draw a line, also where does the authenticity kind of goes away, because here now what is happening is what I observe, my organization messaging is translating to my personal messaging and not the vice versa. Earlier it used to be, I believe, vice versa. So how does one really do that? Because right now I'm not only representing myself, but I'm representing my organization. So what do you
You're talking about your organization or your client's organization?
I think I'm talking for myself as my organization, because I'm representing my organization, my personal messaging is connected with that. Most customers also have to do that. But there is a play of authenticity which kind of gets, I feel that, kind of gets.
So I think it's, you have to be, if you're working in an organization, you have to be authentic to that organization, right? You cannot, for example, say things which will be negatively interpreted within the organization. So for many years, when I was in FCB, Ulka, and the ad agency, whatever I used to write, I never used to write anything negative, either about FCB or about any of our clients. Though I might have disagreed with a lot of things my client did, but I can't write because they are my clients. You can't write anything negative. But today, theoretically I can write, anything negative, positive about I can criticize a campaign which my client is doing, and I've done that enough time because they're not my client, right? I don't owe anything to them. So you have to be true to your company, you have to be true to yourself, and if there is a kind of a mismatch, then you need to figure out what to do with that mismatch. Either you quit or you change yourself, change your perspective, change your value systems, whatever it is. But the important thing is, if you're working in a company, you got to understand that you cannot work at cross purposes to that, to what the company stands for. To the extent about 10 years ago, there was some problem, something appeared in the paper and in the board meeting, and I discovered this was something written by someone in that company where I was on the board. So I asked the journalist who sent this message to you. So the journalist said, look, I can't tell you who, but he had tweeted it. So then I looked for his tweet and it had been erased. So, and I went in the company board meeting, I said, look, someone in the company is tweeting stuff, which is negative to our client, to the customers we have. So do you guys have a social media policy? It might sound pretty weird to all of you. So the company MD said, what do you mean by social media policy? Right? They didn't have one. So I said, oh yeah, you're a member of CII, you're a member of FICCI, ask them. You know what was the answer? They had none. They had no standard social media policy template to be shared with their members. So I said, okay, then I'll get you one. And we got the FCB global social media policy thing, and we gave it, said, look, this is what you should follow. Get everyone to sign this. Right? Because they can't go around tweeting and blogging something which will hurt the company. Right? But today, of course, it's well known, people say that you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to sign a social media thing. And again, there are issues. People say, you're stifling my creativity, that's my personal domain. But the fact is, you're working in the company. You're full-time working in the company, which means the company is paying your salary, right? So you can't go and, you're working in this ad agency and you're working in this client and you go out and post something saying, this client's car is all lousy. You can't do that, right? You can't do that.
So you would say that I think we have to be authentic to the organization's value. I think that's the best way of...
You have to be authentic to, you have to be authentic to your organization. You have to be authentic to your clients.
Yeah.
To who's paying your salary, right? You can't, if it's a problem, don't work. Get out. Resign that client. Work on some other client. I remember once one of our clients was launching a fairness cream. The guy handling the business said, Ambi, I'll not work on that. I said, don't, yeah. Don't work. Okay. And I can't tell the client not to launch a fairness cream. Big category, he's launching it. You don't want to work, don't work. We'll put someone else on the business. But I respect him for it. Then he started thinking, how can you handle it? I said, you shut up. Right? Then he shut up. Fortunately, he shut up. But I was trying to argue with you, how can you let them launch it? I said, yeah, listen, it's way beyond my pay grade, your pay grade, leave it. They are launching it. Chances are it will flop, but let them launch it. Okay. It's what happened. They launched it, it flopped, and it got buried. If I had gone and taken a panga with the client, don't launch it, I would have lost my main business. Right? And they would have launched the fairness cream, it should have flopped. Some other agency would have got the main business and the fairness cream, and they would have had the main business a year later. Right? So, if you don't want to work on that business, say, I don't want to work on it. TK, no problem. Tell your boss, I don't want to work on this. I don't like this client. They are doing all illegal stuff. Right? Don't work on it.
No, that's
correct, na? Someone is clapping there. Good. Thank you.
No, I think I'll throw open at least, one or two questions for the audience if they would like to ask Ambi. Yeah. Yeah, Mayur, go. Yeah.
We need a mic here.
Yeah.
Thank you for the interesting session. We are talking about personal brands, and it'll be really unfair of us not to ask you about a personal brand which is creating havoc in the world right now, Elon Musk. And a brand like Elon, they come with a lot of responsibility. So how do we build that? I mean, I know Elon has his way of working, but what are responsibility as a personal brand at that level? Now, how do you suggest moderation be brought into these kind of place of responsibility when you have already built a personal brand of that level?
So I think, what happens is as you go higher and higher, and I think, Roger here has been advisor to some really big personal brands in our country. The important thing is to have a close group around you who can tell you that you're wrong, right? Maybe Elon Musk doesn't have anyone like that, right? I don't know, there's a book called $1 Billion Coach, right? Where this guy has written about how he's a coach to a lot of these very, very big people. Now, you got to have someone who can walk into your room and say, this is nonsense, you can't be doing this, right? I don't know whether he has anyone, right? I don't know whether I think Steve Jobs in his second innings had people around him. He had Tim Cook, he had Ive, he had people like that around him who could tell him that is wrong, I don't know whether Elon Musk has anyone like that who can actually walk up to him and tell him. So the important thing is, the higher you go, the more rarefied the air gets, which is why you need to have either within your company some people who can tell you, or maybe hire a coach and have the coach as a standby to sound ideas, and the coach should be able to call and tell you what you're doing is wrong, don't do this, right? Obviously he probably doesn't have anyone, because he's an amazing innovator, right? Look at the kind of stuff he's done. But somewhere with this thing, Twitter, he seems to have, waded into pretty slushy waters, So it's an old story about there's two gurus walking on this very narrow path, and they see a very dirty pig coming towards them. So the guru says, let's get down. So they get off the path. So his guru's Sishya says, why did we get up? The pig should give way to us. So Guru says, look, if the pig comes and hits us, who's going to get dirty? Pig or us? So let's get on, let the pig go by and we'll get onto the road again, right? So it's that kind of, someone has to tell you, yeah, mat karo. You know? So if you don't have someone, I'm saying even big industrialists in India have made these mistakes because they didn't listen to someone telling them, right? Don't do this, it's not going to work, right? So, Elon, that's a problem, you know. And I think a lot of big people run into this problem, that they don't have a core group of maybe 2 or 3 people. You don't need too many people. 2 or 3 people who can come and tell you on your face what you're talking is shit. And they don't get sacked for that. They get thanked for that. Right? So do you have someone? So if you have senior clients who have this problem, you should say, look, identify 1 or 2 people who can say this to you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Ambi, you're really a legend, and I'm a huge fan of yours. So
Thank you very much. I missed your talk. Roger was telling me you took everyone into the metasphere, so I missed that. Yeah, thank you.
So I'm actually just trying to understand if perspectives change with age. And fascinating story about your beard. Something similar happened with me in Mercedes days, but I'll come back to that on a one-on-one later. But my question is, if you were to be asked the same question today, how would you react to it?
Which question? Which question?
Would you want to shave off your beard to stay in the company?
Good one. Good. I don't have one. I don't have one. So it's a rhetorical question, right? But you know, I wrote something somewhere about beard. Beard has come back, right? Beard has come back in a very big way. Look at the Indian cricket team. Look at the team which Nawab Pataudi was captaining. There was no one with a beard. And look at the team now. There are only a few people without a beard, right? So if you ask me, I'll say no. Beard is fashionable. It's not a sign. That time, 79, 80, beard was a sign of rebellion.
Yeah.
Today, beard is a sign of convention. Is conformity. So I will grow a beard. I'll buy the beard oil. I'll put the beard moisturizer. I'll do all that. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay, I'll ask my next question, and possibly if anyone does, please raise your hand. Understanding that, times have really changed, and I think you can speak for, the generation. Where do you see this going like 3 years from now? Because you have access to social media. The tools are many. You want to definitely say your story. It makes absolute sense. So where do you see that this trend is going? Not trend actually. How do you see it, as a vision? How will people change with personal branding becoming more DNA?
I don't know how, just to give you a little bit of background, I did not join Facebook the beginning, first year or 2 years. I didn't join, and in fact, I joined Facebook because, Pradeep Guha, a dear friend, he was also became a client because he joined Z. And then he said, Ambi, तुम Facebook में नहीं है क्या? So I said, नहीं यार, Facebook is a बच्चे लोगों के लिए. नहीं, तुम join करो यार. So there in his office only bloody, I joined Facebook, right? So, and I was hardly active on Facebook except to read his posts and say, great, right? Client है, friend है, लेकिन client भी है तो अच्छा है. Okay. Why did I join Twitter? Again, pretty weird. I was sitting in my colleague's office here at Worli, and the attack was happening at that time, right? And Satish used to run our digital operations. So he said, boss, you're not on Twitter? I said, no, yaar. Boss, join Twitter, live feed mil raha hai. There are people sitting in Taj Hotel and tweeting. So I said, oh, really? And that's how I joined Twitter, right? And LinkedIn, of course, happened, and I was not very active till, my literary agent said, no, you should be active. It became active. Now, what has happened today is Facebook has become the grandmother's medium.
Yes.
Okay. Twitter has become the angry young man's medium. Anything, nah, no. The other day, some stupid thing, some 6 messages exchanged between me and someone. Right? He wouldn't give up, I wouldn't give up. Finally, I think we went to sleep and we forgot. Right? So, Twitter. LinkedIn is either people desperately looking for jobs. Okay?
It's become the new Instagram.
Yeah. And then now Instagram is the cool medium. Right? For the young people, and Instagram will go away. In a few years, something else will come. So I don't know what's going to happen. Right? So whatever, how did people build personal brands before all this happened? They used to give talks. They used to write. They used to write articles in newspapers, magazines. All that is not going to go away, right? You will be able to write. You will be able to go and give talks, right? You will be able to develop your personal profile. So one of the advice I give people whom I coach is that if you're not confident of giving a talk, there is a very soft audience available for you. Any guess which is the soft audience? No, there is a soft audience where you can go and whatever you say, they'll clap, right? Which is business schools. So I said, yaar, you're not very confident giving a talk. Next time any business school invites you for a talk, say yes. Go give a talk because half those fellows need a job. They'll come dressed in jacket and all. And you'll develop your confidence. Dam aayega, give talk, get clapping, you feel good. Then you can go and talk in this kind of, reputation today, forum, in front of a tough audience. But build your confidence, right? So go and give that talk, build your confidence, and then you can take on more and more senior, more and more tougher audience. So how is it going to change? I don't know, because these will all go away, right? I don't know. Facebook, Twitter anyway, pata nahi kya hoga. LinkedIn, something new will come, right? Instagram has become more video, right? Instagram Reels ho gaya. So abhi kya aayega next? Who knows, right? So I don't know. 5 years from now, which will be a medium for you to build your brand, which will be a medium for you to go and fight, which will be a medium for you to post your CV. I don't know, right? I wish I had the answer, but we don't know. But thing is, you have to be, just like I had Pradeep telling me, join Facebook, and I had Satish telling me, go to Twitter. You need to have someone to tell you, ye karo. And people say, yaar, itna kaise karenge, kya nahi hoga. So I was asking Prakash Iyer, Prakash, tu kaise karte ho? So he says, boss, my main medium is LinkedIn. उसके लिए मैं post prepare करता हूँ. Same thing I put everywhere else. That works, right? He said, I don't have the time to write something separate for Facebook, separate for LinkedIn, separate for Twitter, separate for Insta. I do one thing. Who's my target audience? I write for them, and I post the same thing everywhere else. It gets views, doesn't get views, I don't care at all. Right? So that's a simple way of handling this. Simple hack, which I also follow. Thanks to Prakash.
Last recommendation you would have for professionals who are getting into the industry as to how they can actually, work on their personal branding. So if you have to give them 2 tips per se.
No, I think what you have to realize, every one of you is a personal brand. That's the first thing. And figure out what is your personal brand going to be. And find someone around you who can advise you whether you're building your brand in the right fashion. There are simple 3 things which you need to do. You are a brand, and go on to LinkedIn and all that at the next stage. I mean, people think, LinkedIn mein dalna personal brand ban jayega. I don't think it's that simple. That's not going to happen. And let's be clear, LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, they keep changing their algorithm every other day. So something you post today may get 5,000 impressions, and the same thing you post 2 days from now may get 300 impressions. You can never crack these guys, right? So don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about all that. So,
thank you so much, sir. And I think it was a very
thank you very much.